The massive Zephyrian flagship, Eternal Glory, drifted through the asteroid field like a predator stalking its prey. Admiral Crixtall stood on the bridge, his four arms crossed in satisfaction as he watched the tactical display. The alien's crystalline skin shimmered with amusement as he observed the pathetic human vessel attempting to hide behind a cluster of space rocks. "Look at that pitiful thing," Crixtall chittered to his crew, pointing one of his clawed appendages toward the scanner readout. "The humans call that a warship? It looks like a cargo hauler that someone strapped weapons onto." The human vessel in question was the TDS Relentless, a Terran destroyer that had been patrolling this sector when the Zephyrian fleet arrived. Compared to the sleek, organic curves of the alien ships, the human destroyer looked crude and industrial. Its hull was angular, painted in dull gray with visible weapon hardpoints and communication arrays jutting out like mechanical growths. Commander Vexna, the ship's tactical officer, activated the long-range scanners and projected the human ship's specifications onto the main display. "Sir, our analysis shows their vessel is only 400 meters in length. Our smallest frigates are twice that size. Their armor appears to be simple metal alloys, and their weapon systems—" Vexna paused to double-check the readings. "Their weapon systems appear to be kinetic projectile launchers and primitive energy weapons." The bridge erupted in laughter. The Zephyrians had been expanding their empire for over 3 centuries, conquering dozens of star systems and enslaving countless species. They had encountered everything from the crystalline Andromedans with their light-based technology to the biomechanical Hive Collective with their living ships, but never had they seen anything as primitive as human military technology. "Kinetic weapons?" First Officer Zemoth wheezed between laughs. "What's next? Are they going to throw rocks at us?" Admiral Crixtall's mandibles clicked with amusement. "Perhaps we should capture some of these humans alive. The Galactic Zoo would pay handsomely for specimens of such a backward species." He turned to the communications officer. "Hail them. Let's see if these primitives can even understand our language." The communications system activated with a soft chime, and within moments, a human face appeared on the screen. The alien was bipedal, with pale skin, short brown hair, and 2 small eyes that seemed almost comically tiny compared to the Zephyrians' large, multifaceted optical organs. The human wore a simple blue uniform with silver insignia. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Terran defense ship." "Relentless," the human said, her voice steady despite being clearly outmatched. "You are trespassing in Terran space. State your intentions." Admiral Crixtall leaned forward, his massive form casting shadows across the bridge. "I am Admiral Crixtall of the Zephyrian Imperial Navy. Your little territory now belongs to the Empire. Surrender immediately, and we might allow some of your species to survive as servants." Captain Chen's expression didn't change. "I'm afraid I can't do that, Admiral. This system is under the protection of the Terran Federation, and I'm sworn to defend it." "Defend it?" Crixtall's laughter was like the sound of breaking glass. "Little human, you have one ship. One tiny primitive ship. I have a battle fleet of 47 vessels, including 3 dreadnoughts. Your defense will last approximately 30 seconds. Behind Captain Chen, other crew members could be seen moving efficiently around their bridge. Unlike the grandiose, throne-like bridges of Zephyrian ships, the human command center was cramped and utilitarian, with every surface covered in displays, switches, and monitoring equipment. "Admiral," Captain Chen said calmly, "I've studied your species' military doctrine. You prefer overwhelming force and intimidation tactics. You've conquered primitive worlds and species that couldn't match your technology. But you've never faced humans in actual combat." "And what makes humans so special?" Crixtall asked, genuinely curious. "This primitive was either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid." "We don't fight fair," Captain Chen replied with a slight smile. "And we never, ever give up." The transmission ended abruptly from the human side. Commander Vexna looked confused. "Sir, what did she mean by not fighting fair? Surely they understand the rules of civilized warfare?" Admiral Krixtal waved a dismissive arm. "Primitive bluster. They're trying to intimidate us because they know they're outmatched." He activated the fleet communication system. "All ships, prepare for demonstration attack. We'll cripple their engines and weapons, then board them for interrogation. Try not to kill too many humans. I want to study their psychology." The Zephyrian fleet began to move into formation. 47 ships of various classes arranged themselves in the traditional Imperial attack pattern, with the dreadnoughts at the center and smaller vessels forming protective screens. Their weapons powered up, filling space with the ominous glow of charged particle beams and plasma cannons. The TDS Relentless had moved away from the asteroid field and now floated in open space, seemingly accepting its fate. Its weapons were powered up, but the small railguns and laser batteries looked laughably inadequate against the approaching armada. "Movement detected," sensor operator Kixtal announced from his station. "The human ship is... Sir, this is unusual. They're not running or attempting evasive maneuvers. They're heading directly toward our formation." Admiral Krixtal studied the tactical display with growing confusion. "One ship? Against our entire fleet? Are they attempting a suicide run?" "Unknown, sir. But they're accelerating rapidly, much faster than our initial scans suggested they were capable of." The Admiral's confidence wavered slightly. In all his years of conquest, he had never encountered a species that would charge headlong into certain destruction. Even the most warlike races would attempt some kind of strategy, or at least try to retreat when faced with impossible odds. "Sir," Commander Vexna reported, "the human vessel is broadcasting on multiple frequencies. It appears to be... music?" The bridge speakers activated, filling the command center with an alien sound that none of the Zephyrians had ever heard before. It was rhythmic, aggressive, with deep bass notes and what sounded like coordinated vocal shouting. The humans called it heavy metal, but to the Zephyrians, it sounded like a war cry. "What kind of species charges into battle while making noise?" Krixtal muttered. The Relentless continued its approach, weaving between asteroids with surprising agility. Its engines burned bright blue, pushing the ship far beyond what the Zephyrians had calculated as its maximum speed. As it drew closer, the alien fleet could see that the human destroyer's hull was covered in scorches and battle damage from previous engagements. "Sir, weapon lock established on the human vessel," Vexna reported. "All ships are ready to fire on your command." Admiral Krixtal raised one of his arms, preparing to give the order to attack. But something made him pause. The human ship was now close enough that he could see details on its hull through the main viewer. What he saw confused him even more. The side of the human destroyer was covered in markings. Not decorative art like many species used, but what appeared to be tally marks. Hundreds of them. And painted near the bow was text in the human language, along with a stylized image of a grinning skull. "Translation complete," the language computer announced. Hull marking reads, "Zephyrian Killers, Estern 2387. The bridge fell silent. 2387 was 3 years ago, the same year the Zephyrian Empire had first made contact with human space and demanded surrender. The same year that 3 Zephyrian scout ships had disappeared while investigating human territory. Admiral Krixtal felt a chill run through his crystalline body as he realized the implications. The tally marks on the human ship weren't decorative. They were kill counts. And there were far more marks than there should be if humans were as primitive as they appeared. "Sir," Krixtal whispered from the sensor station, "I'm detecting massive energy signatures from the human ship. Whatever they're powering up, it's generating more energy than our initial scans indicated was possible." The Relentless was now less than 10,000 kilometers away and still accelerating. Its weapons were charging, but there was something else happening. The space around the human destroyer was beginning to shimmer and distort, as if reality itself was bending. "Admiral," Captain Chen's voice came over the communication system one final time. "You wanted to know what makes humans special? We don't just build weapons. We build weapons that other species think are impossible. You've spent 3 years wondering what happened to your scouts. You're about to find out." The transmission ended, and the TDS Relentless opened fire. But what emerged from the human ship wasn't the primitive kinetic rounds or basic energy beams that the Zephyrians were expecting. Instead, space itself seemed to tear open as exotic particles and weaponized physics effects erupted from hidden weapon ports along the destroyer's hull. The Zephyrian Empire was about to learn why humans had survived every extinction event on their home world, why they had clawed their way from primitive hunters to starfaring civilization, and why they had never been successfully conquered by any force in the galaxy. They were about to discover what happened when you picked a fight with the species that had turned warfare into a science and survival into an art form. The first shot from the TDS Relentless struck the Zephyrian cruiser Void Piercer amidships, and what happened next defied everything the aliens thought they knew about physics. Instead of an explosion or a simple projectile impact, the weapon seemed to erase a perfect sphere of matter from the ship's hull. One moment there was armor plating, internal structures, and crew members. The next moment, there was simply nothing. Not even debris, just empty space where part of the ship used to exist. Admiral Crixtall stared in horror as the Void Piercer listed to one side, atmosphere and cooling fluids streaming from the impossible wound in its hull. "What? What was that weapon?" he stammered. Commander Vexna frantically worked his console, trying to analyze the attack. "Sir, our sensors can't identify the energy signature. Whatever they fired, it's not in any of our databases. It appears to have deleted matter at the quantum level." The Relentless didn't slow down. If anything, it accelerated further, diving deep into the Zephyrian formation like a shark among schools of fish. Its hull gleamed as hidden armor plating extended, transforming the crude-looking destroyer into something that looked far more threatening. Weapon ports opened along its sides, revealing arrays of devices that the Zephyrians had never seen before. "All ships concentrate fire on the human vessel," Admiral Crixtall commanded. "Destroy it before it can fire again." The Zephyrian fleet unleashed a devastating barrage of energy weapons, particle beams, and plasma charges. The combined firepower would have been enough to crack the surface of a small moon. But as the weapons struck the human destroyer, something remarkable happened. The energy didn't dissipate against the hull. It was absorbed, channeled into the ship's systems, and converted into power for its own weapons. Captain Chen's voice came over the communication channel again, calm and professional despite the chaos around her ship. "You're wondering how we're absorbing your weapons fire. Simple physics, really. Every species you've conquered used energy-based weapons like yours. We've had 3 years to study captured Zephyrian technology and develop countermeasures." The Relentless rolled to avoid a dreadnought's main cannon, the massive beam missing by mere meters. As it maneuvered, the human ship fired again, this time with a different weapon. A stream of what looked like liquid metal erupted from its forward guns, striking a Zephyrian frigate. The metal spread across the alien ship's hull like a living thing, then began to eat through the armor plating. "Nano-machine swarm!" Sensor operator Kixtal called out in panic. "The humans have weaponized self-replicating matter. The swift Talon is being consumed from the outside in." Admiral Crixtal watched in growing horror as the frigate's crew evacuated in escape pods, while their ship was literally devoured by microscopic machines. In less than 5 minutes, the once-proud warship was reduced to its basic atomic components, which the nanomachines then used to create more of themselves. But the humans weren't finished demonstrating their technological surprises. The Relentless suddenly seemed to flicker, becoming translucent for a moment before solidifying again. When it reappeared, it was inside the Zephyrian formation, having somehow passed through the hull of a destroyer without damaging either ship. Phase-shifting technology, Captain Chen explained, as if she were giving a lecture to students rather than fighting for her life. We discovered it by studying dark matter interactions, very useful for getting through enemy shields and armor. The human destroyer opened fire at point-blank range, its exotic weapons tearing through Zephyrian ships like they were made of paper. But what disturbed Admiral Krixtal the most wasn't the advanced technology. It was the tactical brilliance being displayed. The human captain wasn't just using superior weapons. She was using them with a level of strategic thinking that the Zephyrians had never encountered. Every move the Relentless made served multiple purposes. When it absorbed energy weapon fire, it positioned itself so that the beams would also strike other Zephyrian ships. When it deployed nanomachine weapons, it did so in patterns that forced the alien fleet to cluster together, making them easier targets for the quantum deletion weapons. And when it used phase shifting, it always reappeared in positions that maximized chaos in the enemy formation. "Sir, we've lost 6 ships in 4 minutes, Commander Vexna reported, his voice shaking. The Relentless hasn't taken any significant damage. Our weapons are actually making it stronger. Admiral Krixtal's mandibles clicked nervously as he watched the tactical display. Red markers indicating destroyed ships were appearing faster than he could count them. How is this possible? Our intelligence reports indicated that humans were a primitive species with barely functional space travel capabilities. The answer came from an unexpected source. One of the escape pods from a destroyed Zephyrian ship was picked up by the Relentless, and its occupant was brought to the human bridge. Through the communication link, Admiral Krixtal could see a terrified Zephyrian ensign being questioned by human crew members. "Please," the young alien begged. "I don't understand. Your ships looked so primitive. Your technology seemed centuries behind ours. How do you have weapons like these?" Captain Chen smiled grimly as she looked at the prisoner. "Because you never bothered to look beneath the surface. Yes, our hulls are made of simple metal alloys, but inside those hulls we've been developing technology that your species can't even imagine. You see crude weapon mounts and think we're primitive. What you're actually looking at are housing units for weapons that manipulate reality itself." She gestured toward the main viewer, where the battle continued to rage. "Every human ship is built with the same principle in mind. We make ourselves look weak and outdated on the outside, while hiding our true capabilities within. It's called deception, and it's one of the oldest human strategies." The Zephyrian ensign stared in confusion. "But why? Why not display your power openly? Why not let other species know what you're capable of?" "Because," Captain Chen replied, "when your enemies underestimate you, they make mistakes. Like sending 47 ships to destroy what they think is one primitive destroyer. Like assuming we'd fight a conventional battle according to your rules. Like believing that technology that looks simple must be inferior." As if to emphasize her point, the Relentless fired another weapon that the Zephyrians had never seen before. This time, instead of deleting matter or releasing nanomachines, it created a localized gravity well that pulled 3 enemy ships together before crushing them into a sphere of compressed metal and flesh. Admiral Krixtal realized with growing dread that this wasn't just a battle. It was a demonstration. The humans weren't just defending themselves. They were sending a message to the entire Zephyrian Empire about what happened to those who attacked humanity. The communication system activated again, but this time it wasn't Captain Chen speaking. Instead, a new human voice joined the channel, one with a different accent and bearing the insignia of a higher rank. "Admiral Krixtal," the new voice said, "this is Fleet Admiral Harrison of the Terran Defense Force. I see you've met Captain Chen and the Relentless. I hope you're enjoying the demonstration of human defensive capabilities." Admiral Krixtal felt his crystalline skin grow cold. "Fleet Admiral? You mean there are more ships coming? Oh, Admiral, Fleet Admiral Harrison chuckled. There are always more ships. Captain Chen is commanding just one destroyer from our 7th Fleet. The 7th Fleet has 200 ships, and we have 12 active fleets. But don't worry, we won't need all of them for your little invasion force. As if summoned by his words, space began to ripple around the battle zone. More human ships were arriving, but they weren't using conventional faster-than-light travel. Instead, they seemed to be stepping sideways through dimensions, appearing from impossible angles as they emerged from what humans called folded space. The new arrivals weren't destroyers like the Relentless. These were larger vessels, cruisers, battleships, and something that defied classification entirely. The largest ship appeared to be made of crystallized starlight, its hull shifting between transparency and solidity as exotic matter flowed through its structure. The TDS Prometheus, Fleet Admiral Harrison announced. Our newest experimental vessel. It exists in 17 dimensions simultaneously and can fire weapons that travel backward through time. Would you like a demonstration, Admiral? Admiral Krickstall looked at his tactical display and felt his confidence crumble entirely. In less than 10 minutes, his invasion fleet had been reduced to 28 ships, and now he was facing an entire human fleet that apparently possessed technology that bordered on magic. But the worst part wasn't the superior weapons or the tactical brilliance of the human commanders. The worst part was the realization that this entire engagement had been planned. The humans had known the Zephyrians were coming, had prepared for this exact scenario, and had turned what should have been a simple conquest into a carefully orchestrated trap. The Zephyrian Empire, which had conquered dozens of star systems and considered itself the premier military power in this galaxy sector, had just learned that they were children playing with toys compared to what humanity had developed in secret. And the demonstration was far from over. Admiral Krickstall watched in stunned silence as the TDS Prometheus demonstrated its temporal weapons system. The massive human vessel fired what appeared to be a simple energy beam at one of his dreadnoughts. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the Zephyrian ship began to age rapidly, its hull corroding and systems failing as centuries of entropy were compressed into mere seconds. Within minutes, the once mighty warship had decayed into a hollow shell of rusted metal and dead electronics. Fascinating, isn't it? Fleet Admiral Harrison's voice came through the communication link. We discovered that time itself can be weaponized if you have the right understanding of quantum mechanics and temporal physics. Your ship just experienced 500 years of normal wear and decay in about 3 minutes. The surviving Zephyrian crews were beginning to panic. Several ships were attempting to flee, but their escape routes were being systematically cut off by human vessels that appeared to be everywhere at once. The humans weren't just surrounding the alien fleet. They were controlling the very fabric of space-time around them. Commander Vexna's voice cracked as he reported from his station. Sir, our faster-than-light drives aren't responding. The humans appear to be generating some kind of field that prevents dimensional jumping. We can't escape. Captain Chen's image reappeared on the main screen, but now she wasn't alone. Behind her stood other human officers, each wearing different insignia representing various departments of their military. What struck Admiral Krickstall was how young many of them looked. Some appeared barely out of adolescence by Zephyrian standards. You're wondering about the age of our crew, Captain Chen observed, noticing his stare. Humans mature quickly, Admiral. We have to. Our species has survived ice ages, asteroid impacts, supervolcanic eruptions, and countless wars among ourselves. Every generation learns from the last, and every conflict teaches us new ways to defend ourselves. One of the younger officers stepped forward, a human female with short black hair and intense green eyes. I'm Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez, head of our Exotic Weapons Development Division. I'm 26 years old, and I've been working on reality manipulation technology since I was 18. The nano-machine swarm that consumed your frigate? I designed that during my undergraduate studies. Admiral Crickstall felt a chill run through his crystalline body. These humans were not just technologically advanced. They were a species that had turned the development of increasingly deadly weapons into an educational system. Their young people studied war the way other species studied art or philosophy. Another officer joined the conversation, this one an older human male with graying hair and scarred hands. Colonel Martinez, Tactical Doctrine Division. Admiral, your species has conquered 47 star systems over the past 3 centuries. Very impressive. But in that same time period, humanity fought over 16,000 separate conflicts on our homeworld alone. We've been refining our understanding of warfare for millennia. The Relentless moved closer to the Zephyrian flagship, its hull now bristling with weapons that hadn't been visible before. Hidden panels had opened to reveal devices that seemed to bend light around themselves, creating disturbing visual distortions that hurt to look at directly. You made several critical errors in your assessment of human military capability, Captain Chen continued, her tone becoming more professorial. First, you assumed that primitive appearance meant primitive capability. Second, you believed that a smaller ship must be weaker than a larger one. And third, you thought that one ship couldn't possibly pose a threat to an entire fleet. The TDS Prometheus drifted closer, and Admiral Crickstall could see that its hull was covered in symbols and equations that seemed to shift and change even as he watched them. Whatever material the ship was made from, it wasn't anything in the Zephyrian databases. The Prometheus is constructed from crystallized space-time, Fleet Admiral Harrison explained. The hull exists in a state of quantum superposition, which makes it effectively invulnerable to conventional weapons. But more importantly, it allows us to project our consciousness into parallel dimensions where we can observe all possible outcomes of this battle simultaneously. Admiral Crickstall's mandibles clicked nervously. You can see the future? Not the future, Harrison corrected. All possible futures. We've already observed every strategy you might attempt, every weapon you might deploy, every escape route you might try to use. In 847,000 possible timelines, your fleet is completely destroyed. In 152,000 timelines, some of your ships escape, but your empire eventually falls to human expansion. In exactly 7 timelines, you survive with most of your fleet intact. What do those 7 timelines have in common? Crickstall asked, dreading the answer. Captain Chen smiled, but there was no warmth in the expression. Unconditional surrender followed by complete cooperation with human authorities. You provide us with all military intelligence about your empire, surrender your entire fleet, and submit to human oversight of Zephyrian territory. The Admiral looked around his bridge at his terrified crew members. These aliens had grown up believing in the superiority of their empire, the inevitability of their conquest, and the primitive nature of the species they encountered. Now they were faced with the reality that they had attacked what might be the most dangerous military force in the galaxy. But why? Admiral Crickstall asked. Why develop such overwhelming force? Why create weapons that can manipulate time and space themselves? What does humanity want? The answer came from an unexpected source. The young human lieutenant commander who had designed the nano-machine weapons stepped forward again, but this time her expression was serious rather than proud. Admiral, my great-grandmother lived through the last major war on our planet. She used to tell me stories about what happened when different human nations thought they could conquer each other through superior technology and force. The wars nearly destroyed our species multiple times. We learned something important from those conflicts. She gestured toward the main viewer, where the remnants of the Zephyrian fleet hung motionless in space, their weapons powered down in defeat. The only way to prevent catastrophic warfare is to be so overwhelmingly powerful that no one will dare start a fight with you. Every weapon we've shown you today exists not because we want to use it, but because we want to make sure we never have to use it against a species that could actually threaten us. Colonel Martinez nodded grimly. Humanity learned long ago that peace isn't achieved through diplomacy or good intentions. Peace is achieved through strength so absolute that violence becomes unthinkable. Your empire has been expanding for 3 centuries because no one could stop you. Today, you've met someone who can. Admiral Crickstall felt the weight of his species' future settling on his shoulders. And if we surrender? What happens to the Zephyrian Empire? Fleet Admiral Harrison's image appeared on screen again, his expression businesslike. Your empire becomes a protectorate of the Terran Federation. Your military is disbanded and replaced with human-trained peacekeeping forces. Your expansion ends permanently. Your conquered territories are given the choice of independence or Federation membership, and your species learns to contribute to galactic civilization through science, art, and culture instead of conquest. And if we refuse? Captain Chen's voice was quiet but absolutely certain. Then there won't be a Zephyrian Empire to worry about. Admiral, you brought 47 ships to conquer 1 human system. We've shown you the capabilities of 1 destroyer and 1 experimental cruiser. Our entire military consists of over 12,000 vessels, and what you've seen today represents our older, less advanced technology. She leaned forward, her eyes meeting Crickstall's through the communication link. The weapons we've used against you were designed 5 years ago. Our current research projects involve things like weaponized black holes, universe-splitting bombs, and devices that can rewrite the laws of physics in localized areas. We've been preparing for the possibility of encountering a hostile galactic empire since we first reached the stars. Admiral Crickstall looked around his bridge one final time, seeing the faces of crew members who had believed themselves to be the apex predators of space. Now they knew the truth. They had been children playing at war, and they had just encountered the adults. I surrender, he said quietly. On behalf of the Zephyrian Imperial Navy, and by the authority vested in me by the Imperial Council, I surrender our fleet unconditionally. Captain Chen nodded respectfully. A wise decision, Admiral. Human transport ships will arrive within the hour to begin evacuation and processing procedures. Your crews will be treated according to galactic humanitarian standards, and those who demonstrate genuine commitment to peace will be offered positions in the new government structure. The communication link closed, leaving the Zephyrian bridge in stunned silence. Outside the viewports, the human fleet maintained their positions, their weapons powered down but ready. The message was clear. Resistance was not just futile, it was impossible. Admiral Crickstall slumped in his command chair, the reality of the situation washing over him. The Zephyrian Empire, which had seemed so powerful just hours ago, had been effortlessly defeated by a single human destroyer. But more than that, he realized that humanity had probably known about the Zephyrian Empire for years, had studied their tactics and technology, and had prepared specifically for this encounter. The humans hadn't just won a battle. They had demonstrated that in a galaxy full of species that thought conquest and expansion were the natural order of things, there was one race that had evolved beyond such primitive thinking. Humanity had become something that transcended traditional concepts of warfare. They had become the immune system of galactic civilization itself. As human ships began approaching to begin the surrender process, Admiral Crickstall wondered if other species in the galaxy knew what he had learned today. Did they understand that humanity wasn't just another spacefaring race to be conquered or allied with? Did they realize that they were sharing the galaxy with a species that had solved the fundamental problem of interstellar warfare by becoming so overwhelmingly powerful that fighting them was essentially suicide? The Zephyrian Empire was ending not with a glorious battle or a negotiated peace, but with the simple recognition that they had encountered something far beyond their ability to comprehend or resist. Humanity had revealed itself to be not just advanced, but transcendent, a species that had weaponized physics itself and turned the art of war into a science so perfect that victory was a mathematical certainty. And somewhere in the back of his mind, Admiral Krickstall found himself wondering what other secrets humanity was hiding. And what would happen when the rest of the galaxy discovered that the primitive-looking species from the third planet of an unremarkable star system was actually the most dangerous force in known space?